Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. My name's ThaTimster. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make sparks and bullet holes in the Blender game engine. A while ago when I started my YouTube channel, I went ahead and made my first sort of tutorial series. And again, this showed you how to make sparks and bullet holes, but it did it pretty badly. So to be honest, it was probably not the best tutorial series, especially considering you didn't even find out how to make sparks till the very last part. And on top of that, the technique I was teaching you guys was pretty horrible. So I'm going to be sort of making a remake of this small tutorial series, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So if I go into my example scene here, and I make this window a little bigger, and I press P, you can sort of look around, and then if we shoot the floor, we get a nice sort of puff of smoke, and where the bullet has hit the floor, we get bullet holes appearing. Now again, I could have made these a brown color, but as in setting this up, I was a little lazy and just used the same bullet hole. Again, if I shoot the wall, you'll see sparks popping up, but the same bullet holes being used. So in the actual tutorial, we'll probably change it so they look different. So without further ado, let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is click File New, open up a new blend file. So in the description will be a link to a download. This will sort of be the starting.blend. So I'm sorry I can't go through it with you guys, but basically it's just the FPS setup and a gun model. To get that, once you've downloaded it, we're going to go to File and then click Append, and then we're going to find our file. Then once you've found it here, you'll click on it, and then we'll go to Object, select Body, Camera, Cube, Feet, Head, I guess Lamp as well, and Plane. Then we'll click Link and Append, and there we go, there's all our stuff added in. Now we don't need this camera here, the old one, we can delete that, and we can also delete this point lamp here, so X delete. Then I'm going to up here change it to Game Logic, and down here change it to Textured, so we can see what we're doing. And now what we need to do is up the top here, change it to Blender Game, then scroll down in the render settings, change it to GLSL, and an animation frame rate of 60. This cube here, I don't actually think we need that, so we can delete it. That's also from the original.blend. And now we'll set up our gun. So right here, this gun, I guess we can call it gun so we don't get confused. Also, we'll name the floor, we'll just call it floor again. And then we'll select our gun, move it towards the player, press S to scale, and we'll move it in so it's something like that. Okay, now we'll press numpad 0 to go into camera view, and maybe move it around something like that. Okay, you can make it even smaller if you think it will sort of suit the game a bit better. Okay, so now we'll just try find a good position for it, so maybe there. Then we're going to go out of camera view and then press shift and right click the head here, then press Control P and parent. So now if we move our head around, this gun will follow it. Then one more thing we're going to do is we're going to select the gun, press Control A and apply scale, and then we're going to add our spawner, so shift A, add a cube. This is going to be our spawner, so we'll call it spawner. And then in the physics properties here, we're going to select no collision and invisible. Then we'll press S to scale, and now we want this to be at the front of the gun. So this is where the bullets will spawn in. So we'll move it up, press S again to scale, and move it nice and close. So this way. And to give us a bit more of an accurate view, we can press numpad 5 to go into orthographic, and this will sort of turn off the perspective mode and will give us a bit more of an accurate result. Okay, now I'm going to press numpad 0, and as you can see that's too high, so we'll move it down here. And once you're happy with it, we can hold down shift, right click the gun, and press Control P and parent, making sure you press Control A to the gun, otherwise it will sort of have some weird movement. The next thing we need is a bullet for it to shoot, so I'm going to go to layer 2 down here, and I'm going to scroll out, then I'm going to press shift A, and I'm going to add a cylinder, and I'm going to use 8 vertices. So This bullet won't be seen by the player anyway, so you can, I don't know, even just make it a cube if you wanted to, so only 4. But yeah, I think 8 should be fine. Then I'm going to press RX90, rotate it 90 degrees, and then I can get rid of this window here, so we'll just close that. Then I'm going to press SY, scale it along the Y-axis, press Tab to go into edit mode, go into face select, select this outside face, press E, Y, and we'll drag it out, then press Alt M and click at center, and then we sort of have a pointy bullet. Okay, so I'm going to press Z to go into wireframe, press B to box select, and we'll just drag it all back. And select everything by pressing A twice, and then we'll move it, the yellow dot, into the center. So now we're going to change this to dynamic. Again, we should probably call it bullet. And down in the physics, make sure you have collision bound selected. This bullet is way too big, so we're going to press S to scale it, and maybe, yeah, something around that should be good. Okay, now we'll give it a material, so new material, turn off specular, backfacing we can actually leave on, turn on shadeless, and then we want a nice sort of yellowy color, so something like that, maybe. So we can go into texture view, and there we go, something like that looks good. And then in the bullet itself, we're going to add an always sensor, and we're going to add a motion sensor. Then we're going to join the 2 up, if they will join. Oh, if they don't join, just add an AND controller and join them up manually. And there we go. Now the motion here needs to be in the local axis, so down here we're going to change it to local, and it's going to be in the negative x-axis, so this is going to be maybe -2, and you can add linear if you want to, but you have to make sure local is selected, and then we're going to add maybe -0.2, so something like that should be fine. Okay, and now we'll go to layer 1, and we'll select our cube here, and then we're going to add a mouse sensor, left button, and an edit object, and then we're going to join the 2 together, and it's going to add the object bullet. There we go. So this is the lifetime of the bullet, the time, and the longest we want it to live for is maybe 4 seconds, so 240, because it's 60 frames a second. And we'll just minimize all those. Now if we press 0 and press P, we'll see the bullet, but it's going downwards by the look of it. So I'm going to press RY -90, and then press numpad 0, and press P again, and now we should have the bullet firing forwards. Now I'm going to add a little animation here for the gun, but it's not necessary, it'll just look cool. So we're going to make a new window here, change it to timeline, drag it to frame 0 down here, then we're going to select our gun, press I, and insert, we want location and rotation, then we're going to go to frame 3, then press GX, move it back, and then RY, this is going to be sort of the maximum kick, and then maybe even GZ and move it up as well, and then press I, insert location rotation. Now we want the same starting one at frame 5, so I'm going to here change it to graph editor, then make this window smaller, and I'm going to go to frame 0, then press A to deselect, Control K to select, and press Shift D, GX5. Then I'm going to press enter to make sure it works properly, and now if you drag along here, we should have a nice little shooting animation. So to get that working, with the gun selected, we need to add an action actuator, and select gun action, then it's going to start at frame 0, end at frame 5, and then we will hold down shift, select the bullet spawner, and we join this together, so it adds in the object bullet, and at the same time plays the animation. Now I'm actually going to move this back just a little bit, like so, and now if we press P, we have a nice little animation and our gun shooting bullets. Now what we're going to do is add ourselves a wall, to sort of, for the sparks to come off. And this is going to be maybe over here. Just going to press SZ to scale it on the Z axis, then SY, scale it on the Y axis, so something like that. Then GZ, move it down, and SX maybe, just a little, something like that. Okay, I'm going to give this plane a material. So first of all, I'm going to select global again because it's just confusing for me. And then I'm going to click new material, turn off specular. I guess it's a plane, so we can turn off back facing. Then I'm going to give it a new material, image or movie. I'm going to select UV, and we're going to, actually we don't have an image, so I mean you can add a normal ground texture or whatever if you wanted to, but I'm just going to be using a new image, so I'm going to click new, and then I'm going to select UV grid. That's usually on blank, so select UV grid, and then we'll click OK. And now if we have everything set up right, and we switch it, and then press Tab U unwrap, there we go, that should unwrap it for us. And yeah, look something like that. If you don't like that look, you can, feel free to add a proper texture to it. We're going to be doing the same for the wall though, so we don't need two different textures, so we'll scroll all the way up, go to the materials tab here, and we're going to go select material 3, like so, and then I'm going to press Ctrl A, apply scale, and then Tab U and unwrap again. Now that is way off, so I'm going to try Tab U and Smart UV project, click OK, and that's looking a bit better. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call it wall, and I'm going to select the floor, call it floor, which it already is. And the next thing we're going to do is get our bullet holes working. So in the description will be another link. This again is for a bullet hole texture, but if you guys want to stick around and make your own, then feel free to do so. So you'll need GIMP or Photoshop or something to make them in. Once that is open, we can click File New, maybe just 512 by 512. Click OK, then we'll select colors and color to alpha, and click OK. So now the background's empty, and now the next thing we want to do is select the paint tool here, and black is just fine. Then we want a nice big size, so maybe something like this. This is going to sort of be the center hole in the middle, so this will need to be fairly large, maybe not that big. Yep, so maybe something like that. Then making sure you're in the middle of it somewhere, just click down. So something like that, maybe I'll select this one and just go like that. Okay, so then we'll change it to this brush, and I'm going to select white, and then I'm going to make this brush a lot smaller, so maybe something around 30. Then I'm going to go around the edges, so depending on what material it is, I'm just sort of using a metal, so I'm guessing instead of white it should probably be a little grey. If you say wanted to do it for earth or, I don't know, wood or something, you'd probably use a sort of wood colour for this outside part. Okay, and then once you're happy with it, we can go to smudge mode here. Maybe not that big, so we'll turn it down to something around 40, and now we just want to sort of drag out in certain parts as if it's sort of, bullets sort of gone right through it. Yeah, I guess there isn't really another way to properly explain it, so yeah, just smudging it all over the place. I'm going to actually make this a little bigger, so maybe 50. And you want to try drag out most of the time, otherwise it sort of makes the texture a little bit, like adds an alpha, and then it's sort of see-through. I know you might like that, but otherwise we want to try push the texture out the whole time. But yeah, so I think something like that is looking nice. So once you're happy with it, we can go to export, make sure it's PNG, and we'll just call this bullet hole texture. And then we'll click export, and there we go, we'll export that out. So that's our normal bullet hole. Now say you wanted to do a 1 for the earth, of course, for the ground. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z a lot of times and get it back down to just a black circle with white around the outside. So all the way down until we're back to the start, so just something like that. And this time I'm going to use a brownish color, so we're going to go red, orange down here, then we're going to go nice and dark, so maybe something like that. Okay, so we sort of want a nice ground color. Okay, somehow that should be good. Then we're going to go to paint again, and it was, I think, something like 30 for the outside. Maybe, no, 40. So 40 for the outside brush. Then we'll draw around the outside. I guess you can leave a little bit of white in here and there, just to sort of add a bit of variety. If you want to, you may as well add another couple colors. But we'll make it sort of thin streaks, so around the very outside, so something like that. And there we go, this can sort of be our earth bullet hole. So yeah, we'll go to smudge tool again, change it to 30 or 40, we'll try 30, and then we'll start smudging it out, so something like that. If you wanted to add a little bit more color, we can always select the paint tool and turn it down a bit, and add a little bit of color there, then change it back to smudge, turn it up again, and you can just smudge in the texture again. Yeah, just until you're sort of happy with it. So I think something like that isn't too bad. That should be fine for a ground texture, if I say wanted to make it earth or something. So yeah, I'm happy with that, so I'm going to click export. Don't click override, make sure you click export, and this is going to be bullet hole earth texture. So in here, I'm going to type in earth, and then click export, then click export again, and we'll export it out. Okay, so now we have our 2 bullet hole textures. We can close that window, then quit GIMP, and now we'll go to layer 2 here, and now we need to add our bullet holes in. So Shift A, add a plane, move it in this way, and this can be bullet hole 1, and then Shift D, GX, and bullet hole 2. Then the first one is going to have a bullet hole texture, so the first one we made, so new material, no specular, no back facing, transparency on, and alpha to nothing, then new texture, image or movie, UV, and select alpha down here. Then we'll click open image, and we'll go to documents where we exported them out to, and there's our bullet hole texture, so this one, and we'll click open that up, then press tab U and unwrap. There we go, there's our bullet hole texture there. Then we'll select our second plane here, go to the materials tab, click new material, turn off specular, turn off back facing, transparency on again, alpha to 0, then we'll give it a new material, image or movie, click UV down here, select alpha again, and then we'll click open, and back to documents, we'll select our ground bullet texture here. So click open on that again, and then we'll press tab U and unwrap. Okay, so then next thing we're going to do is we're going to select our bullet, and to this bullet we're going to add our Python script. So down here we're going to change it to text editor, and then we're going to click new text. So if you want to, you can go to text, open text block, and find it and open it up. It's probably in your downloads, or you can just copy it and paste it in. So Control V to paste, and there we go. So right here we'll just make this a little bigger. Okay, so here's our bullet hole script. It's nice and short, which is good. Basically what we have here is the first thing, the space, so how far away it is from the surface. We'll probably do want to have just a little bit of space to keep things working well. Then down here we have a ray sensor and a spawn actuator, which is an edit object obviously, and then the rest of it here, just make sure it's all in the right place. To our bullet here, the first thing we're going to add is a Python controller, and we're going to select our text script. So we should probably call this bullet hole, and this is probably for the wall, so we'll call it bulethole wall.py. And then what we're going to do is down here we're going to add a ray sensor, and this is going to be looking for the property wall because it's for the bullet hole wall. And now if we go into the local axes, we want the ray to be going in front of the bullet, so -z. So this is going to be on the -z axis, and it's going to be 2, so it's going to be going forward 2. And yep, that should be fine, so we'll join those two up. Now what we need to make sure is that this ray here has a little r, like it does in the script, because if we leave it capital it's not going to work, so it has to be exactly the same as it is right here. Okay, and now the next thing we need to add is our edit object for the bullet hole, so we'll join those two up, and in here we want to select our bullet hole, so bullet hole 1, and it's going to be around for maybe 600, so 600 ticks, so that'll be 10 seconds. Then up here from edit object I'm going to call it spawn, and it has to again be spelled exactly like it is in the script here, and there we go, that should be fine. Now if we go to layer 1 and we select our wall here and we give it the property wall, and now we press numpad 0 and press P and we shoot the wall. If you go close enough we'll notice there is some nice looking bullet holes there, but they're way too small, so we'll go back to layer 2 here and select our bullet hole 1, press S to scale, and then we'll go back to layer 1, press P, move forward, and there we go. Now we can see our bullet holes a little better. Again, if you wanted to, we can probably make this a little bigger, although to save us some time we can just press Ctrl A and apply scale, and so now that should be working a bit better. Again, maybe still a little bit too small, so I'll press S to make it bigger, and then go back to layer 1, press P, and there we go. I think something like that is good. Okay, cool, so we have bullet holes working for the wall right now, but if we shoot the floor nothing happens, and again the bullet keeps going even if we shoot the wall, so it will just go straight through the object, and if you see in the distance there it will just keep shooting out. So what we also need to do is make sure that the bullet ends, so we'll go to layer 2, we'll select our bullet here, and then what we'll also do is add a edit object, so down here, and we'll choose end object, so we'll delete the object, and then we need to add an and controller and join the ray to it again and join it to this controller here. Okay, so basically when the Python script starts going, then it's also going to end the bullet object. If you wanted it to be sort of less obvious, not that you'll notice it anyway, I guess you could turn down the range, but yeah, I think 2 just works fine. So now we just need to add our ground bullet holes. So down here we're going to add another ray sensor, and this one's going to be ray 1. Because we're going to have to use a whole separate Python script for this. So this one's called bulethole wall.py, so we want to take all of it, press Ctrl C to copy, and then we'll click create new text block and then paste, so Ctrl V, and then here we want this ray to be ray 1, just like we've named it here, and again it's going to be -z axis, and it's going to be looking for the, well, at a range of 2, and it's going to be looking for the property floor. And then we're going to add our Python controller just like before, and this is going to be joined to not text, so we need to rename this, so bulethole ground .py, and then we'll choose that in here, so the ground, and then down here we'll go edit object, join the two together, and we will select bullet hole number 2. The time is probably going to be something around 600 as well. One more thing, we have to make sure this edit object here is called spawn, but not just spawn, because otherwise it's just going to use this one here. We want it to be called spawn 2 maybe, or we can just call it spawn G for ground, like that. And then we'll call this spawn G, so exactly the same name. And then after that we will select our floor here, add the game property floor just so it recognizes it, and then I'm going to change this back to global, make this smaller, and now if we press P we get our ground bullet holes working, but they're really small again. So I'm going to go back to layer 2. And then I'm going to select my ground texture here, press S to make it nice and big, and press 1, 0, and P, play again, and there we go. So now we have our ground bullet holes, and we have our sort of wall or metal bullet holes. I guess I probably should have put more sort of brown into the ground bullet holes, and then more silver into the bullet holes for the wall. But again, that's completely customizable. You can go back into GIMP, open that up, and then redo your texture, and then just to refresh the texture you go back into Blender and then click refresh here if you want to overwrite the same file, and then it will reload it, and yeah, you'll have the updated file and it'll look a lot better. But there you go guys, that's part 1 of how to make bullet holes in the Blender game engine. Next tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the smoke, so when you hit the ground and you get sort of a little puff of smoke coming up, and also how to get the sparks working. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next one.